Welcome to the Big Life Podcast, where dreams aren't just imagined, they're built brick by brick, belief by belief. Hosted by Neal Oates Jr. and Robin Lewis, this show is your invitation to discover your amazing capabilities, invest in your growth, and unleash your potential in ways you've only dreamed of. Join Neal and Robin as they dive deep into stories, insights, and tools designed to inspire you to show up big, live intentionally, and give yourself away for the betterment of those around you. Get ready to rise to what you're truly worthy of. The Big Life starts now.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Big Life Podcast. My name is Robin Lewis, and we're so excited to be here with you. And my co-host, Neal Oates Jr. Mr. Neal Oates Jr. How you doing, sir?
Man, I am blessed and highly favored. I'm doing really well. I don't want to just give you a church answer, but it is always a good time when we get to hang out and have some conversation.
Yes, sir. I feel the same way. And today we're going to be talking about a pretty big subject here that can hold people back from reaching their potential. And that word, that four-letter word, is fear. F-E-A-R. And fear is something that we all experience. Right, Neal?
Absolutely. And so really quickly, Robin, here's what I want to just interject is that we don't know what you're going through. We don't know where you are in life. We don't know what you have accomplished or what you failed at. But as Robin just said, each and every one of us, we encounter fear, and is most likely on a daily basis. There's going to be something each day that brings about a sense of fear. It could be paralyzing fear. It could just be that little knot in your stomach. So absolutely, Robin. So I'm excited and I'm fearful of this episode today.
Yes, sir. So I think we're going to explore how we can face our fear head on and still take confident, courageous steps towards our success and towards the big life.
So we're going to look at how do we first identify, how do we reframe fear, how do we move through it, and then how do we act, how do we take action even when we are uncertain. And I think that's important. Now, Robert, I don't know about you, but I've been alive long enough to hear all these crazy things and these acronyms about fear and these examples. I think one of the popular ones is when they say, well, what is fear? And you say false evidence appearing real. And so on that one, I remember one of my Sunday school teachers saying that when David was facing Goliath, that wasn't false evidence. You have a giant that's right in front of you and it's not appearing real. That's real. So and that's just one of the acronyms, false evidence appearing real. Another one might be forget everything and run. I know some of us are runners when we feel fear. And then other one is face everything and rise. And so there's a lot there, Robin. So false evidence appearing real, forget everything and run, face everything and rise. And here's what I want to know. I want to get personal with you and I of those three, and not just all the time, but what might be your default? Do you face everything and rise? Do you forget everything and run? Or do you say that it's false evidence appearing real when I see the smile on your face. Come on. He was not expecting this, ladies and gentlemen.
Because I wish I could say that I do one all the time. I wish I could say I face it and rise, Neal. But if I can be honest with you, there's still times that I allow it to kind of cause me to not take the action that I need to take, And I think that's the challenge with fear. Fear is a natural and instinctive response, Like I love the example you gave about David, right? David and Goliath. That was there. That was not false. That was real. There was something scary in front of him. It's like if we stand on the edge of a cliff. I'd like to use that example. We feel fearful, right? You ever seen them step on that building in New York? I haven't been on it. I think you've been there, where you're stepping on glass, and so you're seeing what's below you, and you're how many stories high, right? The fear comes up on you. So fear is healthy in many ways. It means that, be careful here. But the challenge with fear is that it can hold us back from stepping out into Maybe we might be just uncomfortable because fear could be saying, hey, you haven't been here before, be careful. But that doesn't mean don't go, right? So
Mhm.
there's sometimes it means don't go, but there's sometimes it just means, hey, this is new to us. What? And so to be honest with you, sometimes I still allow fear to get in the way.
And so I would love to, like you, I would love to say that because of my biblical teachings and understanding that I understand it's always false evidence appearing real or I'm facing it, but I'm right there with you. No surprise here is that many times, more times than I would like to admit, that I forget everything and run. And because here's what we know. Oftentimes it's easier to run away and to avoid the thing that's causing us fear, even if it's small or beneficial, advantageous, than it is to face that thing. And so this is where I just want us to start saying, well, what's my natural response? Because you said that we all experience it and that it is natural and instinctive. So there's something that's beyond our control. We need to know what is our response to fear, and then how are we going to leverage that? How are we going to change? Maybe we need to change our response to different fearful situations. And so that's what we're going to look at. And so someone that we look up to and admire very much is Dr. John C. Maxwell. But here's a quote that he has. Fear is a natural reaction to moving closer to the truth. Fear is a natural reaction to moving closer to the truth. And so first, before we even go any further, Robin, there's a lot to be fearful of today, right? I mean, if I look at the news, it's telling me I should be afraid of a depression and the economy and unemployment. I should be afraid of this country and tariffs, and I should be afraid of leadership. I should be afraid of catching this disease, or like, there's just so much to be afraid of if I allow the outside world in. Before we even get to overcoming fear, how do we protect ourselves from just being afraid all of the time?
Wow. Man, that's even just you saying that, it makes me feel sad. But yeah, it's so true. There's so much that is going on in our lives. And I think we have to be grounded. I think we have to be thoughtful, be aware, be present, consider that, remember how we spoke about before, Neal, what is a fact of life, that and so it's a fact of life. We can't control it, and be aware of the things that we can control.
Right.
I think be around, I like to take the hopeful. Be hopeful. When I hear that, what you describe, I think the underlying of that is a perspective. And I want to encourage our listeners to have a perspective of hope. It's today, no matter how bad it is or how good it is, it ends at midnight, right? And
Right.
so tomorrow is a new day with new opportunities and maybe new problems and maybe new fears. But what I would say to you in that regard is to look at it from the standpoint of today is really the only time you need to have the courage for. Don't be focused on tomorrow, because we don't even really know what's going to happen tomorrow. And if we focus on just today, we can have the courage to face whatever it is that is facing us today.
Absolutely, Robin. So thank you for helping us reframe this whole idea of being fearful of everything and letting it in, but then having that perspective of hope, because without hope, everything else it just seems like it's lost, right? And so some common fears that we see, that we experience on a daily basis, regardless of how successful you are or if you're still moving towards attaining success. It could be failure, rejection, the unknown. It could be like the fear of judgment. I believe that and I think that last one, that fear of judgment, of ridicule,
No
right?
way. Me
When
too.
this thing right here and letting the world in and then exposing myself to the world, even with good intent, if I'm not careful. And Robin, this is where you and we have way more conversations than we could ever have with the audience. We, I mean, I'm in real estate. We're told to smile, 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 and dial, right? Or dial, 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 and smile. Just keep calling. And there's rejection there. There's failure when something doesn't work. There's judgment if someone doesn't like our hairstyle or what we're wearing. And then as a result, we might do absolutely nothing. So I want to first just look at this fear of judgment,
Yeah.
right? Thinking that if we do something, someone is going to say something or it's not going to be good enough. Something that I hear a lot of times when I'm talking to my coaching clients and I'm encouraging them to do video, they're going to say, I don't look right. My accent is too thick. I'm going to stutter, going to stammer. I don't like the way I look or sound. So when it just comes to that fear of judgment in personal and professional life, Robin, have you ever experienced that first? Because I know that we are individuals. We want to let people in to see. And then if you did experience that, how would you overcome that fear of judgment?
Well, I definitely do, folks. And Neal,
Wait, you said did because you have arrived, not do. You did feel that fear.
I definitely do. And Neal, I was actually surprised to hear you say that you do. I clearly do. And yeah, so I do, sir. Like, and I think about how I'm going to look, I'm going to appear to people. Sometimes I might be hesitant to even ask a question because I might appear to be, not know anything. And so yeah, that definitely affects me. How do I overcome that? I think one of the things that's helped me is like what you just did. You just shared that you struggled with that too. I what has helped me is to recognize that it's not just me. A lot of people have that struggle, right? The other thing is that the only way that you're going to get better is by doing that thing, whatever it might be. And so sometimes you have to just do it fearfully, Robin. Don't if you are, I remind myself then, I guess, to answer your question of what I'm trying to do, where I'm trying to go, what I'm trying to accomplish. So I remind myself of the goal, the vision, the end result that I'm after. And then, speak to myself, recognize, hey, listen, sometimes you just have to step out and don't be concerned. The only person that really matters right now is you and what you think. And so, yeah, that's some of the combination of things that I tell myself, that I look towards. And yeah, I still
So,
do.
so
I still
Robin,
do.
right there, I don't want our listeners to miss this. You mentioned, so I believe that whether it's the fear of rejection, failure, the unknown, of judgment, you mentioned that you have to speak to yourself, you talk to yourself. Oftentimes, if we're honest with ourselves, many of our fears are multiplied or given bigger life because of the way we talk to ourselves about the fear or the thing. The thing is just a thing, right? The task is just a task, but then we talk to ourselves. And I know this is a very big key in both of our lives. That's that positive self-talk. Now, not delusional self-talk that, yay, I'm perfect, right? Everything is awesome. But hey, you've gotten through tougher situations than this before. You can get through this. You are capable. And you mentioned something about, and I love Les Brown when he said, life is hard, so do it hard. And sometimes life is scary, so do it scared. Right. And so for me to hear you say that is encouraging for us. And so in my real estate classes, as I'm an instructor, I tell everyone, I want to make sure that they understand what the safe space is. And you mentioned that the way that you overcome it is by hearing someone else say, hey, I've been right there with you. I know I'm challenged here. So I would say in my class all the time, we've been told the lie that there are no such things as dumb questions. That's a lie. There are dumb questions. However, there are dumb questions in safe spaces. And the reason why I have achieved what I have is because I had some great people in my life who allowed an ignorant kid to ask all of the dumb questions that came to his mind with no judgment. And so then in the class, I say, all right, today we're only asking dumb questions, right? And so now is easing some of that tension where someone say, well, hey, if I ask this question, maybe I'm going to be considered dumb. And so with my personality, I get away with, I'm like, hey, does anyone have any dumb questions they would like to ask? And so they raise their hands, and now the ease is, or the idea is, okay, I'm not going to feel dumb for asking this, and I'm not going to be judged for asking this. And then what we start to see is now we have more engagement. And now they're saying, I don't have to be afraid of judgment because I have an environment that has encouraged me to share, to add, to ask. And I think that's important.
Yeah, so good.
Okay, so here we go. So we know that fear is real. We know that all of us have an experience with fear more frequently than we would like to admit. But fear does not have to be where we stop, right? It does not have to be where this thing ends. So now we have to say, well, what's going to be my relationship with fear? How am I going to see it? So for instance, you said that it could just be recognizing, oh, that this is new, different. It doesn't mean don't do it. It means that we just need to be aware that this is a new experience for us. And so on this part here, the perspective. Well, let me ask you, Robin. Well, I'm going to share mine first, but I want you thinking, because we're going to talk about perspective, what is your relationship with fear more times than not? So just think about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to share that more often than not, my response to fear is excitement, right? And I know I'm a weirdo, right? And Robin, you could probably attest to this, but when I get afraid, I start saying, okay, I start looking for the gold in the fear. And now this is not always the case, but as I've matured and I realize that oftentimes that fear is just the doorway, once I get past that, to a beautiful room or opportunity, is something good for me. Now, it took a lot for me to get there. Right now, we're not talking about fear just in dumb situations or scary situations. We're just talking about those unknown or that uncomfortable thing there. So when it comes to fear, Robin, what is your perspective on fear, feeling fear, and how you respond or identify?
Yeah, that's I think I sometimes I might stop and become internal thoughts. I start thinking about whatever, I have to be very careful of that because sometimes I can allow the thought of the fear to multiply and magnify because I stop and I think. And that's where I have to be very intentional about, reminding myself of what it is and so on. So that's kind of where I find myself.
And so that leads us right into fear as a caution signal, not a stop sign,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, slow down, be aware, not stop or do nothing. And so fear. And so here's what we know. It's natural. So therefore our creator put something in us that we need,
Yeah.
right? So he's like, hey, don't go reckless, but look at the caution signal and then process. And so here's what I love about you, Robin. So you are quick to, like, one of, I think, your greatest qualities is slowing down. No matter what the environment is, no matter how hectic it is around it or chaotic it is, you slow down. So when we feel the fear, slowing down and then seeing where we are, what is this thing? Is it a stop? Is it a turn? Or is it a proceed cautiously forward? Could you just speak to slowing down when you feel fear, but not stopping? Because even as someone, and here's what I love, like me, I see the fear more often than not. I slow down long enough to get look left, like we're crossing a four-way. I stop, look left, look right, go, boom, right? As opposed to someone who might look left, look right, look left again, look right, inch forward up. Now I'm going to wait, right? So
Yeah.
would you talk about just the slowing down and how that can be advantageous, but how it could also, as you mentioned, could be a challenge when we feel that fear?
But you just said it. You said it very well, and that's something that I have to be careful of. So yes, I am good at slowing down, and I have this calm way about me. But the detriment or the negative of that is sometimes I can be that looking left, looking right, looking left, looking up, looking back, looking left, looking right again. And then I do allow, I should say, it to paralyze me. And so what I have to do is do what you do. So it doesn't come instinctively for me is what I'm saying, but I have to do the same thing that you just described, is to take the action. One of the things that we're going to talk about today, that I want to just mention it right here, Neal, is that taking action is really where it's all at in regards to our fear. Taking one little small step. And so sometimes it's like the room that you created for your students, where we're going to ask dumb questions today, and there'll be no judgment. That's one, you've allowed a person to take a step that maybe was fearful about asking that question. And then by them asking that question within that setting, it allows them to have more confidence so that they could take another step. And who knows, they can be in another room now that's not a Neal Oates room, but they might feel that much more comfortable, even when they're experiencing the fear, to ask that question now, right? Even though they might still have the fear of how they might look, they're more confident now because they recognize that, hey, when I did it in Neal Oates' class, it worked out okay. And so I think that's a part of, what I need to do is to take the action, take one little small step that's going to move me in the direction of, the direction of that fear. So in other words, sometimes we just have to face it and take a step. And so that's what I have to be careful of, and take that step sooner than later.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Famous quote from FDR. Now, and the idea behind that is oftentimes, as you have probably experienced as a listener, as Robin and I know we have experienced, we will allow the fear to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's bigger than the actual thing itself. So the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Not always true, right? But more often than not, if we can move through that, we will probably reap the rewards of the action. So let's talk about motivator, like fear as a motivator. And so this is where I can talk as a business person, as a father, as a husband. Sometimes the fear of poverty motivates the crap out of me, Robin. Right? Knowing that I am not going to be able to provide and take care of, I use that as a motivation. I have a very close friend who, not paralyzing fear, but knowing what his familial gene pool looks like and what they are predisposed to with health, it has motivated him to be one of the healthiest people in the world. Right. And just to have good habits. And so maybe we have seen things in our family or in our past, or as an anecdotal story, where we've now used that fear. We can use that as motivation, as not to experience that thing. And so have you ever experienced that, Robin? Or have you seen or have you heard someone, they're like, hey, because of this, I saw family, friend do this, and now that's motivation behind how we move and operate today?
Well, the great example that comes to my mind right away is the lady that lifted up the car that fell on her baby boy, right? And all of a sudden, there was this tremendous surge of energy and sense of urgency that she had, fearful of her baby boy being hurt. And that's the typical example. But yeah, I mean, the idea is sometimes we have to be careful of it. It can go to the other side. I think of money, for example. It's money that can be a good motivator. Sometimes we have the fear of not having it, right? The fear of not being able to pay the bills, the fear of not being able to go on the trip, the fear of not being able to provide that gift for your son or daughter, the fear of not being able to provide the gift for your wife or your spouse, a husband or wife, or your loved one. That can be a motivator to where you do what it takes. You face your fear. Your fear might be picking up the phone, and you talked about earlier, making a cold call, right? Speaking in front of the public, whatever the fear might be, you're going to have a sense of motivation. It's like I talked about earlier, I remind myself of the vision. And so, yeah, that fear can be a motivator, but we have to be careful that it doesn't go to the extreme where it also you become so fearful of it that it really you bring the wrong energy to whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? So we have to be also very careful of that as well.
So now this is where we move into some of those action steps, because this is not about information, knowledge, it's about implementation and execution. And so that's where Robin and I, we love the conversation, but at the end of the day, we ask, did we deliver something that people could do something with so they could experience the big life? And as long as that answer is yes, then we've done our job. If the answer is ever no, Robin and I have to go back to the drawing board and revisit why we are here and if we're truly adding value. So, strategies to take bold action despite fear. It does not say how to remove fear. How do we act even when maybe, Robin, nothing has changed around us? Maybe nothing has changed on the inside, right? Maybe we're still feeling this fear. We're still going to talk about how do we move forward? How do I take action in that? So would you just talk about the importance of, right? Because first, I think that when we talk or when we hear taking steps despite fear, we're thinking that we have to do something grandiose, something big, something huge. I've got to break down this entire thing, but that's not what you and I are going to suggest, is it?
Correct. I think it's more about, and we talked a little bit about earlier at the start of the show, that don't think about tomorrow, right? So if we think about tomorrow, the goal might be so big that
we won't do anything.
Yeah, it becomes overwhelming. And so what we're suggesting is to break it down into smaller, manageable tasks that you can handle today. When we look at the big picture, we might get overwhelmed, but by taking small steps, it can and reduce that perception of it being so big to where it stops us in our tracks. So what we want to encourage you to do as our listeners today is to take a small, simple action today that moves you closer to your goal. One little step, right? It might be to just make that one little phone call. It might just be to send out that one email. It might just be to do one thing to your social media that you've been putting off doing, making that one post, or it might be writing that sentence to the speech that you're going to have to be giving. So, one little step. What's one little step that you can make? That's what we're going to encourage you to do. Break it down to that one little step that you can do that will help to move you towards where it is that you need to go.
And if you know what that one step is, if you've known what that one step is and you've only shared that with yourself or you haven't shared that with someone else, find a success partner and accountability partner to hold you accountable to getting that one step done. That might be your one step today. Just share maybe what your fear is with someone else and then what steps you need to take in order to get that done. Because here's what we know. There's this thing called performance-based self-esteem. The more we do, even if it's a small thing, the more we do, the better we perform. The better we perform, the more we do. And we find ourselves in this word that Robin and I love called momentum. We find ourselves building momentum, and that's when life gets fun, even though we're still fearful. Once we have that momentum going and we build confidence. And so I know for me, now, Robin, to be transparent, if I have done something in an arena or an area where I was already good, and let's say I did something great, big, monumental in that area, I was like, that's okay. I expected it, right? But if I did the smallest thing, if I took the smallest action in an area where I was fearful or uncertain, you know what my feeling is? Oh, I'm a bad man. I could do anything, right? And so that's what we want to encourage you with, that oftentimes our minds and our hearts will say, if you did that, imagine what you could do. You did it when you were scared. You did it when you were fearful. Imagine the possibilities. And so that's where we want to encourage you. And then we know that the more confident we become, the more competent we become, and the more competent we become, guess what? The more confident. And so we're going to find ourselves in this upward spiral. And so that's exciting. Dr. John Maxwell says confidence comes not from always being right, but from not fearing to be wrong. And now that takes a lot, especially when, I don't want to be wrong. I admit I don't ever want to be wrong. Right. But am I coming from a place where I'm not afraid of being wrong? I'm not fearful of being wrong if I'm looking to grow. So, Robin, when it comes to confidence through action, building confidence, what's your idea or input on building confidence despite or building confidence from action despite being fearful?
Yeah, I think you said it well. But what I would just add is that it's confidence is built through trial and error. Confidence is built through learning step by step. It's not like we can stay over here with the fear in front of us and muster up all the confidence that we need, which is what I hear you saying. So there's not much to add. The reality is, I agree with you 100% that we do it step by step. It's when we do the thing that we learn how to do the thing. It's when we do the thing that we get the energy to do the thing. And so it's when we step. I think about, the bicycle, learning to ride a bike. It's the same concept, man. Or,
Let's stop right there. Hold on, Robin.
skating. We're afraid of.
I have a question. When was the last time you rode a bike? I'm just curious. When was the last time you rode a bike?
Well, it's been longer than I would like to say now, but it's been a few months
Okay.
as we're recording this.
All right, go ahead. Continue.
Funny that you mentioned that. I actually plan on riding today. Yeah, but it's been a few months since I have. The point is that it's when we do the thing. You think about. I was just gonna say skating. That's an example, right? And I haven't skated. If you're gonna ask me when was the last time you roller skated or whatever kind of skating, it's been a long time. It's been years, not months. But I can think of it is because you're fearful of you can't get your balance and you're fearful of falling. But it's actually as you do it that you gain more confidence, and so you might start with somebody holding you as you go along, and then eventually they let you go. And yeah, it's what you said. It's really the truth is as we do the thing, we actually gain confidence in doing it. Yeah.
All right, so talking about skating and falling and holding on and confidence, and you have probably the best relationship with failure that I have ever seen in a business. And I don't know if it's because you and failure get to spend a lot of time together or whatever, but you have the best relationship with failure of any business person, of any man or leader that I have gotten to personally experience. So now let's go. Now we're dealing with setbacks and we're dealing with rejection and failure and all of this. And if we have the wrong relationship, it's going to make us more fearful. It's going to make us say, no, we're not going to try anything ever again. And you have mentioned in probably at least half of our episodes, failure is part of the process, no matter what the process is.
Yeah.
Riding your bike, skating, doing business, giving speeches or presentations, dating, failure is part of the process. Talk about that and how we got to reframe the failure part when it comes to fear, but then the success on the other side of fear.
So yes, sir. Right on. I do. And it's because that I have I have a good relationship with failure. You're right.
Wait. But now, so we laugh about it, right? And you're looking back, and I know you're like, man, I've messed up and I failed a lot, but it didn't stop you. So first, why not? And well, no, even before that, has that always been Robin Lewis? Have you always had this relate? Because some people are just like, hey, I failed and failed and failed, and that's just what I did until I got it right. Has that always been your case?
I've just always messed up, man. I mean, it's like I don't. No, I'm just kidding you, Neal. No. So I've learned over time that failure is a part of it. So I think it's through the investing in my growth. It's through reading. It's through listening to others, right? My yearning for getting better, my yearning for success, my yearning for making something happen with my life, for meaning and purpose, is I found out that failure is a part of it. And so, and as I started to hear that concept and started to look at my life, then I started to learn that that is the truth. The reality is that the only way that we're going to go from this, starting from something that we don't know how to do to becoming the best at it, is going to be, we're going to fail along the way. That's just the reality. We're going to fail along the way. We're going to fail in our relationships. We're going to fail as leaders. We're going to fail in our attitude and our approach to life. We're going to have the wrong perspective from time to time. And so we're going to fail over and over again. Now, what Neal and I are proposing is not that we continue failing at the same thing over and over.
Right.
What we are suggesting here is that the key to failing and making failure a good thing is by learning from it. There's a quote, Thomas Edison, the guy who invented the incandescent bulb, is that he said, I didn't fail. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. And so he 10,000 experiments he had before he got to the one that worked. And so he didn't see it as failure. Can you imagine if he gave up on 9,999?
We're still in the dark.
We're still in the dark, right? And so the point that he was making is that you learn from it and you learn what doesn't work. And so we're not suggesting that you just go on failing. But what we are suggesting is that don't allow fear of failure to stop you from doing, because it's the only way you're actually going to move ahead. And when you fail, when you fail, learn from it so that you learn what not to do next time.
And that leads us into resilience. And so resilience is a nice word in the dictionary or when we're encouraging someone else. It is not a sexy word when we have to apply it to our lives and our situations, and to make sure that we don't give up in the midst of fear or after a setback. And so if we do, as you've just mentioned, Robin, and we are learning from our failures, if we have a healthy relationship and we don't allow the failure to increase the levels of fear that we have about doing this thing, then we're going to have to, as the chapter in my book, The Affluent Negroes, we're going to have to reinforce resilience. And so many times we think that resilience is something that a muscle that we can build during good times, but it's not. Resilience is something that is built after a failure, and when setbacks come, and when fear and obstacles, and when we look around and we don't see an answer and we have to muster something up. And so this is where I'm going to encourage us as humans, as leaders, as one another, to come and say, all right, I am going to commit to increasing my resilience. When it gets hard, when it's a challenge, when it's difficult, I'm going to stay. I'm going to, instead of running away, instead of forgetting everything and running, I am just going to face everything. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to rise, just face everything, right? Let's just start there. Let's just be resilient enough to just remain in it for a little bit, to feel that fear, to feel that uncertainty, and look at it as a caution signal, and then act accordingly. Because if we will be resilient enough to just stay, I think that's going to be a great thing. Now, one of the things that I have heard of in the past is a bounce back plan, Robin. So people call it different things. A bounce back plan and we use it for any fear-based setback. And so here's the idea of the bounce back plan. Write down 3 steps to take if they face rejection or failure, so they are ready to push through it, right? So for me, part of my bounce back plan that I have in my life is to, 1, acknowledge the fear or the setback or failure. What did I learn from it? How can I apply it or improve on it next time? So that's just for me. So 1, acknowledge it or recognize, because I know this goes back for you when you do your daily review, right? When you're sitting there, when you slow down and your reflection time. So for me, I acknowledge, what was my fear or my setback? What did I learn from it? And then what can I do to improve upon it? So when it comes to resilience, and I think that you covered a lot of this when you talked about your relationship with failure, how has resilience, or how can resilience play a role in our lives on a daily basis when we're fearful?
Yeah, it's very important. It's something I think back a long time ago when I started in sales. My sales manager at the time said to me that, listen, sales is a numbers thing. And he said, if you show your wares, whatever it is, at that time I was selling gourmet food. He said, if you show your wares, it could be a watch. Let's say you want to sell a watch. If you show your watch to enough people, you're going to find somebody who's going to buy. And so what happened is we were going door to door. And so it definitely, we were fearful of knocking on the door and somebody's going to, punch us in the face or bite our head off or be rude or put us down or, ridicule us, or you just fill in the blank, right? Who knows what they could do. And, but he helped me to be resilient, to recognize that, hey, if I do that enough, I'm going to get to my sale. And so it helped me to face that fear of rejection. So that's a fear of rejection. So what in that case, he just reminded me that it's really about showing what you're selling to enough people. It does not matter their response. And so that is a resilience bounce back plan that I use. The idea is just show it to enough people. It doesn't matter. If you show it to enough people, you're going to get to the one who buys.
And so on that, Robin, I think it's important what you said. You had someone that modeled it out for you, that told you what it really was. So instead of just getting stuck in that fear of rejection, it says, okay, so this is where, once again, in sales, we're taught you have to get through a certain number of no's to get to your yes. And then those conversion ratios and the such. So what Robin is saying, even if you're not in sales, what we want to encourage you with is this, is that even if you are rejected or fearful, if you are resilient through enough fearful circumstances or interactions, there is a yes. Whatever your yes is, there is a yes on the other side of the actions that we take. And so as we get ready to close out this episode, Robin, I know you mentioned a couple of things and we have discussed a lot, but one of them was that fear is normal, that we should not be ashamed of being fearful. Don't let anyone tell you that, oh, you are a scaredy cat. Don't be afraid. Fear is natural, and all of us experience fear at different levels and at some points in our lives. But then you mentioned, Robin, that just because we are fearful doesn't mean that we can't take action, and we don't have to wait until we're fearless to take action, even if it is small. So before we go, what would you like to share with our audience today, Mr. Lewis?
Just to recap, I think it's good to recap what we shared with in regards to fear today. The key, so it's natural, like you said, and the key to overcoming it is to take action, right? So take a step, reframe it, right? So reframe the fear for what it is, and then take small steps. Don't feel like you have to take it all in one shot. And then recognize that as you take these steps, you're going to fail. Use the failure as a learning opportunity.
So thank you for that, Robin. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. Maybe you didn't enjoy it, but maybe you will benefit from it because it's going to encourage you, not force you, but encourage you to face or identify some of the fears and your relationship with fear so that you can move beyond it and move towards the big life. So if you would do us a huge favor and share this episode, share this show with someone that you like, love, that you care about, that you want to see better, that you want them to experience the big life, be sure to subscribe yourself, comment on this. But then most importantly, Robin and I want to remind you that we love you. God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time we see you or you see us, we're right there with you.
Right there with you.
Peace.